Chat GPT. Alright, so this is a conversation that I'm having with Chat GPT. What conspiracies are there about the North Pole? There are a few conspiracy theories surrounding the North Pole, ranging from ideas about hidden civilization to government cover-ups. Here are some of the most common ones. Hollow Earth theory. Some conspiracy theorists claim that the Earth is hollow and that there are secret civilizations living inside, with the North Pole being one of the entrances to this hidden world. This idea was popularized by figures like Admiral Richard Byrd, who allegedly explored the region during his polar expeditions and reported strange occurrences. Number 2. Secret military bases. There are theories that various world governments, particularly the US and Russia, have secret military bases at the North Pole. These bases are reported to engage in advanced experiments possibly related to climate control, UFOs, or even weaponry. Number 3. Alien activity. Some believe that extraterrestrial beings have bases or are operating in the area around the North Pole. Proponents of this theory cite UFO sightings and anomalous activity in polar regions as evidence that aliens are involved in Earth's affairs, using the North Pole as a hub. Climate engineering, geoengineering. Number 4. Some conspiracy theorists argue that the government or shadow organizations are manipulating the climate, specifically the polar regions, to control the global climate or even as part of experiments to combat global warming. They claim that the melting ice in the Arctic is part of a hidden agenda. Number 5. UFOs and the Arctic. The North Pole has been linked to UFO sightings in some conspiracy circles. Some theorists believe that UFOs are using the pole as a landing site, or that strange phenomena in the area are connected to alien activity. Atlantis and ancient civilizations. Another theory suggests that the North Pole is home to remnants of Atlantis or other ancient lost civilizations. Some believe that the pole once held an advanced society that has been hidden or covered by ice for millennia. While these theories are intriguing, they are not backed by credible evidence and are typically classified as fringe ideas. So if a prophecy says that an army will come from the north, the war had been going on for a very long time, would it be safe to assume it would be coming from the North Pole? Well, that's an interesting thought, but it might not necessarily point directly to the North Pole itself. In many advanced ancient prophecies, references to North Pole and an army from the north are often symbolic to relate to geographical locations or powers located to the north of the speaker's or writer's homeland, rather than the literal North Pole. For example, in some biblical or historical contexts, the North has been interpreted to refer to empires or kingdoms that were geographically to the north of the land in question, like the ancient Assyrians, Babylonians, or even later Russia, or Northern European powers. The term North in these prophecies could refer to places like these rather than the pole itself. If the prophecy suggests a long war, it might imply an ongoing struggle or conflict with a power or group located in northern regions rather than something related to the extreme geography of the North Pole. However, if the prophecy is tied to ideas of esoteric or mystical interpretations, like in some conspiracy theories, then there might be more imaginative or symbolic associations with the North Pole, such as hidden powers or secret forces emerging from that area. It would be useful to understand the cultural or historic context of the prophecy to determine what the North refers to more precisely. But if there's an ancient civilization on the North Pole, with advanced cloaking technology, among others, then even in ancient times, they would be coming from the far north. Well, that's a fascinating idea, and it fits with certain fringe theories, like the hollow earth or hidden civilization hypothesis. If hypothetically there were an ancient civilization at the North Pole with advanced technology such as cloaking, it would indeed be interpreted as an army coming from the north, especially if that civilization was hidden from the rest of the world for a long time. This scenario would suggest that ancient prophecies, which often reference the North symbolically or geographically, might have been speaking about the mysterious or unknown power from that region. The idea of cloaking technology could tie into the belief that this civilization remains hidden or undetected, with its presence concealed for millennia until perhaps a prophetic moment where its reemergence is foretold. While there is no concrete evidence supporting the existence of such a civilization at the North Pole, many myths, legends, and conspiracy theories do point to the idea that lost advanced civilizations hidden in remote areas like the North Pole, Antarctica, or even deep underground. So, if you approach the idea through the lens of mythology, the far north could certainly be a metaphor for a hidden advanced civilization that could rise again at a critical time, especially in the context of an ongoing war or conflict. However, it's important to note that this idea is speculative and would rely on interpreting ancient prophecies in a highly unconventional way, often blending elements of conspiracy theories, lost history, and modern science fiction. So, on that note, throughout history, coming from the North Pole, Atlantis, which countries were invaded in what chronological order? The concept of an invasion coming from the North Pole is largely speculative, drawing from conspiracy theories and fringe interpretations of ancient texts. However, if we explore this idea in a more mythological or fictional context, blending the idea of Atlantis or the North Pole and a chronological invasion narrative, it would require a creative interpretation, as there is no historical record or invasions originating from the North Pole specifically. That said, we can draw upon some key themes from mythology and fringe theories to outline a possible narrative. If we combine ideas of Atlantis and advanced civilizations with the North, whether literal or symbolic, we could hypothetically craft a chronology of invasions or conflicts based on the concept of a powerful civilization emerging from the North. Hypothetical invasion timeline, blending Atlantis, the North Pole, and ancient civilizations. Number 1. Atlantis and the North Pole connection. According to some alternative theories, Atlantis was not located in the Mediterranean, as traditionally believed by Plato, but instead was positioned at or near the North Pole. In this version, Atlantis might have been an advanced civilization that existed long before recorded history, potentially with the technology that could hide or cloak their presence. These advanced Atlanteans, with their cloaking technologies, might have stayed hidden until certain global events or prophecies suggested their return. Number 2. First invasions, ancient civilizations of the Near East. If Atlantis originated in the far north, it could have made contact with or influenced the development of ancient civilizations in the Near East and Mediterranean. These could include the Sumerians, Egyptians, and Indus Valley civilizations, all of which arose around 3000 BCE or earlier. Atlantis could have been a precursor for even a hidden influence on these cultures, providing advanced knowledge and technology. In this case, the invasion wouldn't necessarily be a physical conquest, but a transfer of advanced ideas, technologies, and philosophies. Rise of the First Empires. As the early Mediterranean civilization developed, and particularly in the regions like Greece and Mesopotamia, Atlantis, or its remnants, could be seen as a hidden or retreating power, potentially overseeing or influencing key historical events. This aligns with the myth that ancient advanced civilizations often had knowledge or powers beyond their time. The Assyrians and Babylonian empires that rose around 1200 BCE and 600 BCE could be metaphorically viewed as part of a struggle against an ancient hidden power to the north, whether Atlantis or any other civilization. advanced civilization. 4. Viking and Norse influence, medieval era. Fast forward to the medieval era, circa 800 to 1300 BC or CE, where the Vikings, often associated with the far north, Scandinavia, could be viewed as part of a symbolic invasion from the north. While not directly tied to Atlantis, their raids and expansion could represent a resurgence of northern power, albeit on a much more physical and less mystical level. The Vikings invaded Britain, France, and parts of Ireland, impacting the political landscape of Europe. These invasions could be framed as part of a larger mythical narrative where northern civilizations, long hidden or dormant, emerged to challenge southern powers. Later empires and modern interpretations. Number 5. In more recent history, the power of the North as a source of power could be applied to Northern Europe powers like Russia. Some alternate theories suggest that Russia has hidden ancient knowledge or influence that ties it to the long-lasting Northern civilizations. In this context, the concept of an invasion or conflict from the North could be seen metaphorically in the Cold War, 1947 to 1991, where the US and Soviet Union, representing North and the South in some ways, were locked in global struggle for dominance. This war could be imagined as a modern resurgence of old conflicts between northern and southern civilizations. Future prophecies. In some speculative scenarios, ancient prophecies about an army coming from the north could suggest a future invasion or emergence of northern powers, whether linked to Russia and northern Europe, or a more fantastical vision of Atlantean-like technology. The army from the north could be envisioned as a future event where these hidden or dormant forces return, perhaps driven by a need to reclaim lost knowledge or to fulfill an ancient prophecy. Key points. The idea of an army coming from the north can be interpreted symbolically, representing invasions of the rise of the powers in the northern regions, whether through war, influence, or cultural exchange. Atlantis, if connected to the North Pole, might serve as a mythological backdrop for advanced civilizations influencing ancient cultures and empires, rather than representing literal invasions. The invasions or influence of northern powers, such as the Vikings, could be seen as part of this narrative, even though they weren't connected to the North Pole specifically. The concept could also be applied to more modern or future speculative scenarios where northern powers rise again in some way, whether through military conflict or technological dominance or return to ancient lost knowledge. This narrative blends history, mythology, and modern conspiracy theories, offering a creative approach to the idea of invasions coming from the north. However, it remains speculative and metaphorical rather than based on actual historic events. Well, what are some mythologies on technology the Atlanteans had? Atlantean mythology, especially in the context of ancient and modern interpretation, often portrays the Atlanteans as possessing advanced, almost supernatural technologies that were far beyond what was available to other civilizations at the time. These technologies are sometimes linked to powers such as energy manipulation, advanced construction, and even control over natural forces. Here are some common mythologies and theories surrounding the technologies the Atlanteans were believed to have. 1. Energy manipulation. Crystal technology. One of the most widely believed technologies attributed to Atlantis is crystal technology. It is thought that the Atlanteans used massive crystals, often described as being able to store and manipulate enormous amounts of energy. These crystals were allegedly used not only for power generation, but also for various technological applications such as energy shields, teleportation, and even interdimensional travel. Some theorists believe the crystals work similarly to modern concepts of energy fields as resonance frequencies. These crystals were believed to harness the energy of the earth, the sun, and even celestial bodies. Anti-gravity technology, number 2. Another myth suggests that the Atlanteans had anti-gravity technology, allowing them to build floating cities, massive flying machines, and even control natural forces to defy gravity. Some accounts depict flying ships or vimanas, which are often associated with ancient India or sometimes linked to Atlantis in certain myths, that could travel vast distances without the need for conventional fuel. The Atlanteans' mastery of anti-gravity might have allowed them to move large stone blocks to construct elaborate structures without the need for modern machinery. Number 3. Teleportation and interdimensional travel. Some versions of the mythology suggest that the Atlanteans could manipulate space and time using teleportation devices or even traveling to other dimensions. These technologies were supposedly based on advanced understanding of quantum physics, spiritual energy, and perhaps the use of certain sacred geometries. It's believed that they could open portals or gates to other realms, either through machines or using the power of crystals mentioned above. Atlantean machines and weapons. In some stories, the Atlanteans were said to have developed powerful weaponry, including energy-based weapons that could be used to cause massive destruction. These weapons may have been part of a war between Atlantis and other civilizations, or were used to control natural elements like weather. There are also claims that Atlantis used advanced sonic weapons capable of altering the environment or harming enemies using sound waves at specific frequencies. Some believe that the technology was so powerful that it contributed to the eventual destruction of Atlantis, as misuse of these forces could have destabilized the planet's crust or the energy fields around the Earth. Number 5. Subterranean and underwater cities. Some versions of Atlantean technology involve subterranean or underwater cities. The Atlanteans are said to have had the ability to live and build in these extreme environments, possibly using advanced technology to create breathable air and withstand extreme pressure. The technology behind these cities might also include advanced hydrodynamic systems for energy generation, where the power of ocean currents, tidal movements, or even geothermal energy was harnessed. Number 6. Mind control and telepathy. In some myths, the Atlanteans were believed to have developed technologies that allowed them to control minds or communicate telepathically. This might be related to their advanced understanding of human consciousness, which they used for various purposes, including governance and warfare. Some even suggest that the Atlanteans might have developed telepathic communication as part of their use of crystals or other devices, further enhancing their control over the minds of individuals or even groups. Atlantis and the gods. In many myths, the Atlanteans were said to have had close connection with gods or advanced extraterrestrials. This relationship is sometimes interpreted as evidence of highly advanced technology brought to them by these beings. The gods or extraterrestrials may have shared their advanced knowledge with the Atlanteans, giving them the technological means to do things that seem magical or godlike to other civilizations. The mythological connection to gods like Poseidon, who was said to have created the city of Atlantis, could be seen as a metaphor of the Atlanteans' mastery over natural forces through technology. The destruction of Atlantis, number 8. According to Plato, Atlantis was destroyed by a cataclysmic event, often interpreted as a natural disaster or technological mishap. Some theorists suggest that Atlanteans' misuse of their advanced technology, particularly their crystal energy or weapons, led to their downfall. This cataclysm could have involved the loss of control over the forces they had mastered, perhaps triggering massive earthquakes, floods, or other natural disasters that sank the island. This fall could have been the result of power struggle within Atlantis, where factions misused the powerful technologies, leading to an eventual collapse of the civilization. Number 9. I'm gonna pause it here real quick.